Hello friends, this is your favorite neighborhood nerd Simone, and I'm here today to swatch. What am I going to swatch? Samples that I have received from friends over the last 6 months. I think the oldest samples that I have are these ones. These are the wet pen. Most of them are the wet pen inks that Wendy Sue sent me when she sent that huge package that I unboxed on video for you. So that's how long they've been sitting here, and these are the oldest samples. But I also have, this is another package from Wendy Sue, Rora and Klingner Blue-Eyed Mary. I don't even remember who sent over this Deep Space Aurora from Journalize. I did not buy it from Vanessa, but this is a Vanessa sample vial. What else is in here? I thought that I've already swatched all of the inks that Laura sent over, but maybe not. And I think I have the same sample. Let's see. So these are the Glass Bead Game from Wearing-Ghoul Paradiso, Birmingham Penco Sterling Silver, and Wearing-Ghoul Tinkerbell. Then my friend Amy, when I met her the other weekend, it's been way too long already, gave me some Diamine Forever inks, Pilot Iroshizuku Sungyo, which I also have a bottle of, but I'm just going to swatch all the things. Tom Studio Cherry Bomb, Diamine Forever ink Red Ochre, Bangu Box Calvados. That is an interesting ink. I was able to write with that inked in a pen when I met her. What I'm going to do is all of those samples that I own, I will swatch. And then I'm currently preparing a nice package for a friend, and I'm just going to include all of those. So this is Wearing-Ghoul, A Room of One's Own. So what I'm going to do, I think, I'm going to swatch both of them. What the heck? Where is it? This one. Because all of those, as you can see, these unfortunately leaked. And so I want to see if this is the same color, if they contaminated each other. Wearing-Ghoul, The Autumn Night After 1,000 Years. This is Wearing-Ghoul, The Star Child. And this one is Wearing-Ghoul, The Nightingale and the Rose. This was not one of those. So all of those in these teeny tiny glass bottles are from Amy. This one are two inks that were at Scriven, I think. Scriven? How do you pronounce that? I would say Scriven, but now that I'm reading it, maybe it's Scriven. These two are amazing. These I received from Caroline. How do you pronounce your name? Is it Caroline or is it Carolyn? And then I think Wendy Sue sent those over, but I have no idea if that's correct. Yes, I'm that bad at remembering who sends what. But that is the extent of my swatching game today. Let me quickly count and get my stuff together so I can start and know how to distribute the stuff on the paper. So here's the plan. I'm going to start with these samples from Wendy Sue, the wet pen, so that all of the wet pen is together. So I'm going to grab those first. Then I'm going to swatch all of those glass bottles because I don't want them to trip over, because I sometimes wonder if they're as leak proof as these plastic samples. And then I will just grab stuff from this box to make it easiest on me. This way I feel organized. Let me quickly talk about the tools. I already told you that the paper that I'm using is mixed media paper from Kanzen. It is, what is it? 98 pounds, 160 grams, 11 by 14 inches. I have like 3 sheets left, so I need to restock my pad because this is definitely something that I will continue doing. I am going to use the Iro Utsushi pen, dip pen with a medium nib. Because I'm making these big swatches that are amazingly colorful, I do want to have at least a little bit of a closer look at what this ink might look like in a fountain pen. And I think the Iro Utsushi dip pen is closest. The Kakimori brass dip pen puts down a lot of ink, and so it's not really a representative of what an ink might look in a pen. This gives me, just by dipping it, the closest that I have here in my collection of dip pens that would be representative of how an ink might perform in a fountain pen. I'm going to use these plastic syringes to take water, the ink out of the vial and drop it onto the paper. I have 2 in case one doesn't work well. And then I'm going to use my water brush to dilute the ink a little bit and see how it's going to work out. And then of course, this amazing piece of acrylic resin that my friend Wendy Sue made for me. I just use this to swirl the ink around. It's called a swink. And I love this one specifically because it's see-through and I can actually see what I'm doing. So let's start with Mont Blanc Beetles Psychedelic Purple. So we are going to have an already let me open my water glass. These ink swatch pages look so cool. I started this when I had those those huge amounts of ink bottles from my friend Amy, and I didn't really know how I was going to go about swatching them. I had the idea of using this amazing piece of paper, and wow, I love how this looks. Mont Blanc Beetles Psych Purple. I love how these turn out. So not sure how I did this before, but I just usually, wow, I will add some water to pull out some of the colors of the ink. This was a little bit lots of water, but nonetheless, I still really love to play around, and I would highly encourage you to do the same. This is something completely different than using fountain pen inks in your, so where am I going to put the ones that I've already used? You know what? I'm just going to put it into this box over here. So now we're going into the wet pen. This is so different from using fountain pen inks in fountain pens. And if you haven't tried this yet, I would highly encourage you to do so. If you're like me, you might have some art supplies. You don't have to use mixed media paper. Take some watercolor paper, take whatever big piece of paper and just play with some of the inks that you have. You don't have to buy inks for this. You don't have to buy any equipment for this. Just look around your household, your supplies, what you can use to play with inks just like this. I am having a lot of fun. I need to find a way to put them onto my walls. They look so fabulous after they dried. So colorful, so bright. I wanted to stick them on to my wall with washi tape, but it's I'm going to TWP, the wet pen, Diablo Lake. Diablo, it's a D, not a P. Diablo Lake. These are made, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Matthew from the wet pen makes these all by himself in his studio in Seattle. And all of the names of the inks are places that you can find in and around Washington. Seattle, I mean. Seattle is in Washington, we know that. Look at how this looks. Look at the blooming over here. Then we have the wet pen Rainier Blue. There's a lot of blue inks with the wet pen, which I'm totally okay with. Some of them look very similar to, so I need to figure out how much space I need to leave on this. Even if there's space, this reminds me very much of Konpeki. And then this water brush. You don't even need to use a water brush. You can just use any type of brush for this type of thing. This looks very much, yes, this reminds me very much of Konpeki. Obviously, my lighting situation isn't the greatest right now, but that shouldn't deter you from watching. Oh, well, it can. If my lighting situation is an issue for you, I would highly recommend you just move on to the next video. Rainier. Is it Rainier Blue? It has a tiny bit of red halo here around the edges where it's very highly concentrated, but I believe that this is not a sheening ink, which I love. I love that about it. Yes, I really highly recommend moving along. I just didn't want to let the sun, or not let the sun in here. I'm not sure if adding so much water is a good or a bad idea. We'll see. So, how are you doing? How is your June, summer so far? I don't even know when I'm going to share this video. I just have time to film this. I wanna swatch all of those inks. This is what excites me most. I could totally film I was thinking of filming a Techo Kaigi, but to be honest, the only Techo or planner that I currently use is my Hobonichi Weeks. There's nothing elaborate about it. I do have, ooh, there's a little bit of green and yellow behind here. This is Deception Pass. And it's like, it's not really super interesting. Oh, look at how it, oh, this is cool. I'm not really sure if that's something that I should film a whole video about. What I have been thinking of is making a video on my current, all of the fountain pen and ink notebooks, and show you how I'm not really good at keeping them current. Specifically the ones that Deception Pass, that I wanted to use as logbooks. Some of them, they're so invested. Or even my ink swatch book that I have used since I started using fountain pens. It was the thing that I set up to swatch all of my inks in. This thing. If you've been watching me for a while, you know what I'm talking about. This one. This is basically all of my ink career in here. And how I've decided to not make myself swatch in here if this is what excites me more. Like, how do I... We all know this, right? Diablo Lake. Didn't I just do Diablo Lake? Yeah, so that's another one? Or is this different? Huh. This might be a different color, but not... Okay. Well, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. This might be mislabeled. So, this is getting more and more neon green. So let's see what this is. This is supposed to be Diablo Lake again, which we all know might not be true, but we will see what difference it makes. So, yeah, how do I deal with the intent, and then the expectation, and then the follow-through? Some of these things are amazing in theory, and I'd love to have logged all of my inks in the same place. But at the same time, if it doesn't excite me right now, why would I make myself use it instead of doing this and having a lot of fun? So here I'm asking you, this is me always doing that. Who makes the rules? This one is Diablo Lake. But really? I'm making the rules. I'm having ideas and I'm trying them out, and then I'm realizing that it works for a while and then suddenly it doesn't anymore. So is it a bad system in general, or should I just leave it, you know? Am I calling myself a failure? I think, yes, as you can see, my sentences are half finished because I'm thinking through this process right now as I'm talking. So maybe I don't even have to film a video about it unless you want to see the notebooks that I'm using. This is Western Trillium, still by the wet pen. It's like, do I define what is a success, what is a failure? Am I going to stick with something when I realize that it's not serving me anymore? Because sometimes it's still working great, but the excitement for that specific type of documentation process might be gone. And you or I need to start asking ourselves, how invested into this or how scientific are we with this hobby? This is a hobby. This is supposed to be fun, right? So that's the first permissive, or whatever we call this. That's the first thing that we need to know. This is a hobby. This is supposed to be fun. We do all of those scientific methods, those logbooks, being extremely good about keeping trackers, all of those things, because we think that we want to do them. Maybe because we gain information from them. This is Gasworks Park. And maybe when we lose interest in filling out or continuing with one or two of the documentation methods that we used successfully for a while, and now they feel like a chore instead of a joy. Maybe we don't need to gather that specific information any longer or anymore. Wow, this is super dark. It seems like the same color are in this, but maybe in different saturation levels. Let's add some water. These would be really fun to do a single ink exploration page in one of my notebooks. So here, tangent, I'm going to continue the broader topic of the logging and the notebooks and the hobby and stuff in between, but I want to say that I pulled out all of my sketchbooks that I have and put them on a pile so that I can use them with my fountain pen inks and just do. This is so lovely. I want to use this in a fountain pen and see how it looks. You know what it reminds me of? Diamine Evergreen, I believe, is the color. I want to pull this out even further. So wow, here, all different sizes, because maybe I'm really interested in filling this one out and then just adding something here. Oh my gosh, what is this? This I already did with King Lear. I started it. This is Wearingeul. I'm just trying to not be precious with any of my notebooks anymore, because the best thing that I can do is actually use them. So what is in here? I also did some inky stuff. No, I think this is all watercolor, but I could do all of these things with ink as well. What's back here? I don't know. Some watercolor dots. Okay, Schminke super granulation. Okay, wow. And then I have this one is Canson watercolor paper. I don't know if this is ink or watercolor. This is another page of King Lear. I don't know what this is, but this is also fountain pen ink for sure. So I just, I just want to experiment. I really like how this turned out, and I love this. So I could see myself making another page with the full-on. Here's one. This one I feel like turned out okay now. I could add even more. There's circles right here that could be developed even further, but also they don't have to. I can just use this and then use another page. I have enough paper to last me a lifetime. So I'm super excited. I would love to play with the wet pen inks in that capacity on these different papers, just to see what happens, how they fall out. I actually made there's so much hair again. I actually made a folded nib from a can of beverage can, so that I could get even more ink onto the paper. And I haven't used it yet. I made it yesterday, so I haven't really explored with it yet. This is the wet pen Elliott Bay. There's also some amazing, I feel like the colors are the the dyes. This is not pigment ink, so it can't be pigments. The dyes that are used in this must be very similar, because the yellow is coming through here as well. And here, look how this totally changed. There's no blue left. This is a very cyan blue gray. This is more on the warmer blue side. Wow, I love this. And I specifically love that he just decided to go and explore and do this. The wet pen Elliott Bay. So now we're moving on to all the glass vials that I have. Okay, but also let's continue talking about those Let's start with those first that are not in bags. These are all shimmery inks. So, yeah, I have quite a bit of, you know, material that I have started using, and at some point they worked really well for me, but now I'm not really tempted to use them. Okay, I think there was contamination on this shoot. From my last ink swatching session, I think some of those bottles were so crusted that some of the dye fell off at crusted pieces, and I still have them on here. Even though I wiped down my table, still some of them are on here. So this is a shimmer ink. This is, I believe, Wearingeul the Star Child. This is an ink that I've seen online and I've wanted to use, and now I messed up the swatch. That is unfortunate. So, going back, when do we call something a failure? Like, is it even a failure? Can't we just say, okay, this was useful for me and I enjoyed using this for 2 years, but now I've moved on, and not say, okay, this book isn't full, so I failed. That would be, I think, the first step. It's kind of like a techo kaigi, and that's how I came to this idea, is maybe besides the planner and journal lineup that we need to reassess, which if you've been watching my snippets from my desk videos, I am actually going to make a change in my journal because the paper just doesn't work with fountain pen inks well, and it's stressing me out more than I thought I wanted than it would. And so for me, the best move is to go to a different journal and just try again. And the July 1st is a really good way, half-year mark is a really good place to, you know, try something new. This is Wearingeul, The Autumn Night After 1,000 Years. What the heck? What a name. So now this is clean. Oh, wow. Interesting. So maybe I should do an ink journal kaigi instead of, or an inky notebook kaigi instead of a planner techo kaigi, because my planner, even though it's not, I'm thinking of switching it up. I am just going to continue using the one that I have for 2025 and then making the change towards 2026. Just because my life is really boring right now. The only thing that I have to remember is like clean this, make a cleaning list, and just check it off one after the other, which I don't. So, yeah. Wearingeul, The Autumn Night. This feels like it's not sticking well to the nib, which is interesting, after 1,000 years. And just see what's working and what's not working for those inky journals. I've already, for instance, I did these inky explorations with water, so you know, a swatch and writing samples in different nib sizes. That thing is kind of still interesting. I had the expectation in the beginning when I started it, and I did it for quite a while, to explore one each, I think all of the inks that I used each month. That was very overwhelming quickly. Am I going to squish one here or am I not? I think I am. I'm just gonna see what happens. The Nightingale and the Rose is this one. So, and now I'm like, okay, I can use this in my dice game, and when it comes up, I'll do one, because I still like the idea of this, just not maybe as a, you know, you have to do this every time with all the inks that you're using. That's not necessarily what this is about, you know. So just changing the expectation on some of those journals might help for me. And then I have this big fountain pen log where do you want to see this? And then it's becoming this mishmash of two videos where I documented the name of the pen, what it cost, the size, you know, all the measurements. Grangul? I need to write, I can't talk. And I was logging the inks that I inked into this pen so that I could get an overview. And I made it B5 size. And I love the flexibility of it. In theory, I really like it. But in practice, it feels so bureaucratic. It's not whimsical, and I'm missing the whimsy about that. But I know that if I were to swap that into this is a room of one's own. If I were to swap that into a whimsical journal, I probably miss the structured nature of the book. So there's that. We all know that we are oh wow, is this rose gold or red shimmer? This is, wow, stunning, interesting. So that's some of the things that I struggle with. And I could also, I do have one of those, I have a binder where I wanted to categorize all the inks that I swatch by color. And I need to just say goodbye to the expectation of being comprehensive and having it all everywhere. Maybe when I'm inking a pen and I want to put it into that notebook, that's fine. But just because I'm swatching all of those inks on this paper doesn't mean that I have to swatch it on all the other places that I use to swatch as well. And just accept that there will be holes, you know. Maybe this is because I'm also on YouTube, so I feel like I have to have the most comparable library, you know, so that I can compare inks. But to be honest, if it stops me from having fun, then I'm just not going to be that YouTuber that has the most extensive library and can compare all the ink colors with each other. That's an expectation that I have on myself, and not an expectation. Well, maybe you'd have that expectation. Maybe when you watch my videos and you realize that I'm not comparing it to all the million trillion inks that are out there on the planet, maybe then you're not watching my videos. But I have to just be okay with that and say, well, that's on you then. It's not, you know, I'm not making this video channel, this YouTube channel, to be, I am a resource of some sorts, but maybe I'm not the resource for you. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. Diamine Forever Ink Amazonia. Now I'm really curious what happens if I dip my pen into this. Not dip pen, my water brush. And what happens? Curious. Wow, these are definitely very saturated. And you know what I also find very funny? Well, interestingly enough, this is what the syringe looks like after rinsing. There's still drops of this ink in here, which wasn't the case with the other inks. But also it's very, 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 it seems it's like so concentrated. So what happens when we do this? Okay, so it still comes out. There's still some, it's still soluble, but it also, I don't think it dried all the way. So let's write it with the dip nib and then come back to those diamine when they're actually dry and go over the writing. Forever Ink Amazonia. This is Diamine Forever Ink Smoky Mauve. Sorry for the shakiness right now. Yeah, so that's me. What I did, so I recently watched a YouTuber. Her name is Jill Larson. She is originally, I think, like her background for being on YouTube is scrapbooking and being on scrapbooking design teams, but she's also, just like many of us, ventured from the scrapbooking towards the planning and the journals and then the fountain pens and all that. And she shared her pen log. Now I completely lost the ink. I put it over here when I wasn't even done yet. This looks so good. An interesting observation that I am making is that it's not as easy to get the ink off the vessels that I am using to apply. Wow, that is some awesome English. To apply the ink, my swink, I needed to clean more. I needed to rinse my syringe more. I needed to wipe this nib down more. That is an interesting observation. Forever Smoky Mauve. And I originally had my observations and my rating for how I liked an ink in a pen, how I liked the writing experience, all of that. I wrote it down in my ink journal for the year and just logged the inks in that big pen inventory log thingy-majig. But now that I'm looking back at it, it's like, okay, look. This is still wet, obviously, so I can pull out some of the ink. But if I'm going in here, it's really, there's almost nothing coming off. I'm gonna wait because I want to see if it's actually really dry, like dry. Is there something budging from the writing? That's why I'm not going over that right now. Let's do all the Forever inks now. This is Aqua Surf. I have heard or seen some people, is it Was it just one or was it more than one? Is what I'm trying to figure out. Where the Diamine Forever ink ate the gold plating of a steel nib, a Jowo steel nib. She said that she didn't have that experience with any other nib but the one single one that it happened on. So this might be a fluke. I think Diamine since changed their wording and cautioned that this might happen to you. And I think that's really smart to just be cautious. But I would love to hear if you have, they've been on the market for like a month, 1.5 months maybe now, 2 months when you were watching this. And I would like to know what your experience is. Have you used them? What pens have you used them in? Forever Aqua Serve. And how are they cleaning out of the pens? If you've used other permanent inks, how do they compare in the experience that you have when you have it in a pen and the cleaning, that stuff? I would love to know. I don't know. I wasn't really super, I'm interested in them, but I wasn't. So this is where it's almost dry. There's basically no color coming off. Now I'm going into the wet stuff. Yeah, I would love how they're cleaning out, what your experiences are. Do you have any, eating away corrosion experience? How is that going for you? Then this is the last Forever ink, I believe. Yes. This is Diamine Forever ink Red Ochre. And so I really like those colors, but to be honest, I'm not sure what my specific application would be for these Forever inks, permanent inks. Yes, I know if I spill onto water onto my pages, this would definitely be useful, but I'm not sure that I want to give up all of my inks, the amazing properties, because these are nice. They're definitely lovely colors, but they're not super exciting in their properties, right? Like, you don't have this falling apart into the different dye colors with any of these. That's just not happening because they're permanent inks. And so I'm really, that's why I didn't buy them yet. I'm really stumped. The only one that I would have a use for probably is the black. But I have platinum carbon black as well as Diatramentis document black, and they're both full bottles, red ochre. And I'm having the applications that I am using them with. I'm using them in 2 different pens, a Pilot Vanishing Point with an extra fine nib, as well as my TWSBI Diamond Mini with a reverse architect nib. My experience with those inks is good. So I don't have that need to explore all of this. And especially because I just like inks with weird properties so much more than having these. I don't see a use case that requires me to have all of those ink colors. So this is what this nib looks like after I've used those Forever inks. This is clean as well. There's a little bit of water in that pipette. Let's cut the video right here. I talked for 1.5 hours in that video, and I just looked at it while I was editing it and decided this is way too much. I wouldn't enjoy watching it, and I do not want to make you watch all of this. So I decided to cut the video in half, and this was a good stopping point. I would love to know if you use the colored Diamine Forever inks, how you use them, what you use them for. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know which inks you like of the ones that I have swatched so far. I really would love to use all of those wet pen inks in inky messes on watercolor paper, because I am extremely excited about what that paper will look like once it's treated. So that's it for now. I will see you again with the second part of this video next week. Until then, bye.